Hey guys, and welcome back to Castle Crush, and today we are going to be playing with a deck full of Castle 1 only cards that you've unlocked by Castle 1, and we're going to be playing with this deck here in Castle 9 and trying to see how this deck is going to hold up. So as you can see, the strongest, highest mana card I have in here is an Executioner. I have some demons, pirates, archers, dwarves, golems, and the idea here is just going to be a simple, put the ranged cards behind the melee cards type strategy. And there were a couple of different strategies I could have gone for here. You do have the standard bearer in Castle 1, not the training castle, but actual Castle 1. But the problem is you don't have rage and you don't have a reaper. So it's tricky, and you don't have protection. So it's tricky to come up with a deck that can work through Inferno. And actually a lot of players use Inferno because you do have Inferno unlocked at Castle 1. So that made rushing actually kind of tricky. So I decided to just try and go for something a little bit simpler. And again, so we're playing like at 5,500 plus trophies here with this deck. And I mean, the card levels are higher than obviously you would have at Castle 1. So that is in my advantage. I'm not playing players from Castle 1. So again here, just focusing on putting the ranged cards behind the tank cards, just very simple concept. And that's actually just too much for a lot of people to deal with. But I did focus on a lower mana deck, and the reason why is because no extra crystal, no mana ritual, and we do pick up a win right here with that deck. And so there are still some strategies that really carry over from the early castles to the late castles. But it is tricky because obviously, with the Executioner being my highest mana card, or at least in one of the decks I used, it makes it hard if my opponent has higher mana stuff, because it's difficult for me to finish them off in the mid-game, especially without like Rage or something. Or, like a Skull Queen deck. Skull Queen decks are more like mid-mana decks, but they have the ability to actually finish in mid-game, whereas this deck really doesn't have the ability to finish in mid-game unless I completely just roll them, unless I get all the cards right, pretty much. So I was just trying to play things here as smart as I could, but this was definitely an interesting challenge. This is probably one of the more interesting challenges I've done in a while, because I was able to come up with an actual strategy, but, just a lot of very useful cards. It really makes you appreciate, a lot of the cards you unlock later in the game. And especially against decks that had, say, dragons, it's really difficult. I mean, against those decks, I pretty much did have to try and have a standard bearer and kind of just hope that they didn't have Inferno, but so many people had Inferno. And there we were able to get another win. That time the standard bearer did help out. I believe I got a Black Knight in there with a standard bearer, which is a good combination. But it's tricky to do it like in a timely fashion because, again, no mana cards. So I have to really wait, and this is a much slower paced deck than I often play, so it's just kind of tricky to wait and be patient, especially when you don't have super high mana cards, and if they get to the end game then I lose. So there's like this very narrow window that I can win in, or I have to just completely get control of the board. But even if I do and then they start playing dragons, or, Orcs Horde in particular, that's a problem. So, just really have to be good with the fundamentals in this particular challenge. Right there, just focusing on focusing on clearing whatever they're playing and clearing it as fast as possible. There were some options in terms of spells, like lightning is a card I could have used. But I don't know, I didn't really feel like lightning was going to benefit me that much. It might have helped with the later game though, just to combo with demons. So I had some options, but this seemed like a really simple strategy, and it did actually work against people, which was fun to see. And as things went on, I kind of lowered the mana cost of the deck because, again, I was having trouble getting cards out quickly to match my opponent, and I really needed to get ahead of my opponent in the early game. I could have run a Balm. I think Balm is a card I could have used, actually, that would have helped against skeleton decks better. I thought the Mage would be good enough, but the Mage does take some time to get out there, so that didn't always work for me. But the Golems were definitely a good card. They were probably... the Golem and Dwarf combo was, like, really good, and then putting, like, the archers behind them. As you can see right here, once I got in that position, if my opponent didn't have, like, arrows, if they did have arrows, this deck pretty easy to clear between arrows and Inferno, but some people don't have them in their deck. And as you can see from this video, I got a handful of wins in this challenge. And I honestly expected it to be harder than this, but after messing with the deck for a little while, I was able to realize that there's some good cards. The Demon is a meta card to some extent. The Mage just got buffed. So there are definitely some decent cards to work with, actually. But here in this match, you're going to see a situation where my opponent has higher mana cards than I do, and it sort of ends up getting me in the end here. They also have Inferno and arrows. So this is a tricky matchup. However, I did a decent job, I thought, of trying to really get my cards out there fast, but that Blizzard kind of messed me up, and then the Inferno combo that right there, that totally messed up my stack. Otherwise, that Mud Elemental would have been toast. I mean, it still is toast, but I was trying to counter what they were playing as hard as I could here and really push forward, but it was hard. And then, you know, debatable situation here. I had two standard bearers. So for some reason I was like, eh, we'll go right into that Black Knight, and then the dragon comes out. So I made a good move there, but then they have the Gust of Wind. Gust of Wind plus arrows plus Inferno is just a bad combination against a rushing deck. So I was going to have a really tough time with this, and they had 3 lightnings. And you can see, I mean, they just totally wreck my entire rushing stack. And I was just flat out of cards. I was trying to block the dragon, thinking maybe that that pirate could get things going. But unfortunately, I just came up a little bit short. And I was able to get rid of the dragon, but they play another one, and then I have nothing to jump over them or do any type of spell damage to their castle. So pretty much sunk right here, especially with their combination of Infernos and Lightning. And it was a good try, though. Considering the deck they had, I thought that was actually a pretty good attempt. And we got pretty close, but not today. Anyways, I thought that was a pretty fun challenge. So it actually worked. The strategy actually kind of worked to do a Castle 1 deck in Castle 9. It's not great because the upper mana card selection is pretty thin, but Black Knight was an option. So leave a like if you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought in the comments about this video and what other types of content I should create. Maybe subscribe if you're new to my channel. And thanks for watching, guys, and stay tuned for more videos.